Hello and good afternoon, students. Welcome back to class. I hope everyone's doing well and you're having a good and a productive week. From the submissions so far, I can tell that people have been working, and I've received a number of submissions for the comma splice and the fragment exercises. I'm online this afternoon to do a little more grading and updating and answer questions and give people feedback. But what I'd like to do this afternoon is actually just do a quick review of the week at a glance, because I think it's helpful, just sort of as a refresher, and also so that you can see my face. Hello, I'm here. Okay, so quick review. I'm in your instructions. Remember that I provided feedback on outlines and outlines and body paragraphs last week. And so your first task at the beginning of the week on Monday was to go back and review that feedback and then start working on the grammar, comma splices, and fragments. They are the most common errors that we see in academic essays and student papers. So I really wanted you to just review this. I know it's kind of basic, and maybe it's not an issue for some of you. Maybe comma splices isn't a problem, but honestly, these exercises give you just a good general review of what a complete, independent clause is. A subject and a verb that agree and form a complete thought. So let's just kind of review and refresh our memory on grammar, since you're going to be proofreading your papers and then submitting a final copy. It's perfectly timed. And then your next task or assignment is the reflection. This is a reflective paragraph where you're basically reviewing the feedback. I'm asking you to consciously go back and read my suggestions and read your peers' suggestions and write a reflective paragraph. And then I would like for you to start working on your concluding paragraph, sort of typing up, composing your final thoughts. Make some more revisions to your paper. Go back, look at your introduction, look at your body paragraphs. Make sure everything's in order, that you're fulfilling all of the requirements of the assignment. And once you've made revisions, you've checked your paper to make sure all your ideas are there, you've proofread it for grammar and mechanics, it meets all of the requirements, then when you're completely comfortable, submit your final copy by Sunday. So let's take a look. Let's go into, let's go to the next, if I can do this. Having some technical difficulties here, just a sec. I want to go back to the module, and I want to show you, let's look at the final copy. Okay, great. Here's the assignment sheet, right? So let's review the requirements for the assignment. I think this is perfectly timed. Okay, so here's the assignment sheet that I distributed a couple weeks ago before our break. And so it has been at least 3 weeks. And so just to refresh your memory, this paper needs to be between 2.5 and 3.5 pages. Roughly 2.5 to 3 pages, not a long paper. It's 100 points. It's due the final copy Sunday night. What are the goals and objectives? To respond to text in a thorough and thoughtful manner. That is also to connect to the text. Our texts are the Trevor Haynes and the Tim Herrera articles. So you need to show me in your paper, in the body paragraphs, that you're responding to those articles. You're responding to the ideas. You are connecting to the larger topic, which is the distracting and addictive use of technology, right? That's the general topic of these 2 articles. It's not just technology, it's very specifically social media. And Trevor Haynes is concerned about the addictive nature, and Tim Herrera is concerned about the distractions of social media, these apps, whether it's the phone or the laptop. Trevor Haynes focuses more on the social media apps on our phones. Tim Herrera focuses more on our laptops, but really they're talking about technology, the addictive nature, the distracting nature of these kinds of technology, right? So that's kind of the overarching topic. How do you respond and connect to the articles and the topic, okay? So you need to have a response. You need to have a main idea. Your essay needs to be properly formatted, and it needs to incorporate the sources. So that just means, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman font, size 12, double spaced, a correct MLA-styled header. Incorporating sources, that just means reference the articles. If you have a direct quote, put it in quotation marks. You don't necessarily need to use page numbers. You've introduced the articles and the authors in your introduction. So if you have a direct quote, make sure that it's very clear who you're quoting, either Trevor Haynes or Tim Herrera, okay? And write paragraphs that are focused and use topic sentences. Here's the background, the description of the assignment. Moving from a response paragraph to a full-length response essay means you have to find even more ways to interact with the text, even more ways to make the text meaningful to you. You'll pay attention to what the text, that is the article, is about, as well as how the article is written. I mostly want you to focus on responding and connecting to the text, right? Thinking about whether you agree or disagree with the article. You're probably going to agree with some things and disagree with others. Remember, we talked about a well-rounded response, not just completely agreeing or completely disagreeing, and talking a little bit about the style of how the article is written. Remember, Trevor Haynes has a very different style from Tim Herrera. Trevor Haynes is more scientific, more formal. It's geared for a slightly different audience. Tim Herrera's article is more of a popular piece, an opinion piece, found in the New York Times. It's much more casual, or informal is probably a better word, more accessible to sort of an average reader, an average sort of audience. So there are some differences in the style and how these articles are written. So that's what I want you to think about there. A response essay is typical of academic writing in a few key ways. First, it requires that you are familiar with all the ideas of a reading. So you're familiar with both articles. Make sure you really know those articles. You really have read them completely through at least once, but ideally twice. Maybe go back and reread it, skim through it, make sure that you understand the articles. You are familiar enough that you're able to discuss them at length in your essay. Secondly, in composing a response, you are required to think critically about both the ideas of the reading and how the text was composed. Again, so what do I mean by the ideas of the article? The overarching topic is the distracting and addictive nature of technology, specifically social media apps and laptops and cell phones. All right, so that's the big idea. What do you think of that idea? How do you respond to it? What about the text, how the text was composed? Again, this goes back to the style of each article. Formal, informal, casual, the language, is the article accessible? Is it easy to read? Is it user-friendly? Is it engaging? Are you very likely to change your behavior based on either article? In other words, after reading Trevor Haynes, there's lots of scientific data. He provides lots of data to support his ideas, but are you convinced to change your behavior? After reading Tim Herrera's article, which has a few references to studies, but mostly it's a conversational piece, is it more engaging? Maybe it's more engaging. Are you very likely to change your behavior? So this is how I want you to think about how the text was composed. And is it persuasive, okay? This critical thinking is essential to being able to understand and utilize the challenging texts you'll read in college. So again, the rationale behind this assignment is to really be engaged with the kinds of things you're reading in college and how professors want you to respond and connect with these texts. We want you to respond in a meaningful way. We want you to respond and engage in a critical thinking way, and we want to see that in your writing. So that's what you're really practicing in this assignment. Your audience is an academic college audience who may or may not be familiar with the text. So what does that mean? Well, that goes back to the first two body paragraphs in your essay. Remember, after the introduction, you need to summarize each article in one paragraph. So summarize Trevor Haynes very succinctly and objectively, no opinion, no evaluation, just an objective, matter-of-fact summary paragraph. Then transition to the next paragraph. Summarize the second article, Tim Herrera's article. Again, very matter-of-fact, very objective, just the highlights, just the main points. So those two summary paragraphs are familiarizing your audience with the articles. Now, yes, I have read the articles several times over and I'm very familiar, but it's just a good best practice to not assume too much even in an academic paper. That's why you're providing those summary paragraphs. And then in the body of the paper, the following response paragraphs explain your reaction to the articles. Make meaning out of the articles. That's what you're doing. Okay, sorry about that. That's my dog barking in the background. So review the assignment. Let me know if you have any questions.